Good day. This presentation represents Asnaku Mala Barahan from Ethiopia, speaking for Group 2, Team C, on the affirmative side. The debate topic is, should genetic sequencing of zoonotic pathogens be stored locally to ensure data sovereignty, or shared internationally to facilitate faster outbreak response? The position presented here supports local storage under national governance, with international sharing occurring through fair and regulated mechanisms. This approach strengthens sovereignty, equity, biosecurity, and scientific capacity, particularly for countries in the global south. Several key concepts are important to understand this debate. First, zoonotic pathogens are disease-causing organisms that circulate between animals and humans. Second, sovereignty refers to the right of a country to govern and control its own resources. International law, including the Convention on Biological Diversity of 1992, recognizes the sovereign rights of nations over their genetic resources. This sovereignty also extends to digital sequence information, which refers to genetic data derived from biological samples. Historically, genetic resources and their associated data have often moved from the global south to the global north without adequate benefit sharing. This dynamic has been described by many scholars as digital colonialism. Local storage of genetic data helps ensure that countries are treated as equal partners in global health research and response. Opening statement. The central proposition of this presentation is the following. Genetic sequence data should remain under the governance of the country of origin. International collaboration and data sharing should still occur, but under conditions determined by the sovereign state. Such an approach promotes equity, transparency, and responsible scientific cooperation, and it is currently being discussed within negotiations for global pandemic governance frameworks. Argument 1. Protecting national ownership and control. The first argument focuses on protecting national ownership and control over genetic resources. Local storage of genetic sequencing data ensures that a nation maintains full authority over how its biological data is accessed and used. This approach guarantees sovereign authority, allowing governments to exercise full legal and regulatory control over genetic information derived from their territory. It also helps prevent external misuse or exploitation of genetic resources. Furthermore, local governance allows countries to decide how, when, and with whom data is shared, while ensuring that benefits arising from its use are fairly distributed. Argument 2. Safeguarding sensitive biosecurity information. The second argument addresses biosecurity concerns. Genetic sequence data from pathogens can be highly sensitive. If misused, it could potentially support harmful dual-use applications, including biological threats. Local control of data reduces risks related to biopiracy, unauthorized research use, or potential bioterrorism. An example illustrating the ethical risks of uncontrolled data use is the Havasupai tribe case, where DNA samples originally collected for diabetes research were later used for unrelated studies without consent. This incident demonstrates the importance of ethical governance, transparency, and informed consent in genetic research. Argument 3. Promoting local capacity building. The third argument highlights the importance of building scientific capacity within countries of origin. When nations store and analyze their own genomic data, it encourages investment in local laboratories, sequencing facilities, and bioinformatics expertise. This strengthens national research infrastructure and reduces dependency on external institutions. A significant historical example is the experience of Dr. Jean-Jacques Muyembe, a Congolese scientist involved in the discovery of Ebola. Early Ebola samples were sent to laboratories abroad, where much of the scientific recognition occurred outside Africa. Later advocacy emphasized the importance of keeping samples and research capacity within the Democratic Republic of Congo, enabling local scientists to contribute directly to outbreak response and scientific discovery. Argument 4. Fairness, equity, and benefit sharing. The fourth argument focuses on equity and fair benefit sharing. Local governance of pathogen genomic data ensures that scientists from the country of origin receive proper recognition, authorship, and opportunities for collaboration. It also strengthens the ability of countries to negotiate fair access to vaccines, diagnostics, and medical technologies derived from their biological resources. An example often cited is the 2007 H5N1 influenza case in Indonesia, where the government temporarily stopped sharing virus samples after discovering that pharmaceutical companies were developing vaccines without guaranteeing access for affected populations. This situation highlighted the need for fair and transparent benefit sharing systems. Argument 5. Respecting cultural, legal, and ethical frameworks. The fifth argument concerns respect for cultural, legal, and ethical frameworks. Different countries have unique regulations and social expectations regarding the collection and use of genetic data. Local storage allows governments to establish clear policies and guidelines for data collection, access, and sharing, consistent with national laws and ethical standards. This approach also helps prevent situations where genetic data is used in ways that violate community expectations, consent agreements, or cultural values. Respect for these frameworks is essential for maintaining trust between researchers, governments, and communities. Rebuttal: trust deficit in global data sharing. Opponents often argue that unrestricted global data sharing is necessary for faster outbreak response. However, there is a significant trust deficit in international data sharing systems. Many low and middle income countries have shared pathogen data in the past, but did not receive equitable access to resulting vaccines or treatments. Local data sovereignty provides countries with negotiating power, enabling them to ensure that benefits from scientific discoveries are distributed more fairly. Rebuttal: the digital genomic divide. Another important challenge is the digital genomic divide. When pathogen data is always transferred to laboratories in wealthier countries, those institutions maintain dominance over analysis, interpretation, and scientific publication. Local storage encourages the global scientific community to invest in research infrastructure and expertise within developing regions. For example, during the 2018 Ebola outbreak, investments in advanced laboratory facilities were made in the Democratic Republic of Congo, strengthening local research capacity. True data sovereignty ensures that countries have the first opportunity to analyze pathogens originating within their borders. Rebuttal: balanced and practical solutions. Local storage does not prevent international collaboration. Instead, a balanced system can be implemented. Under such a system, raw genetic sequence data remains stored in national or regional data centers under local jurisdiction. Standardized access protocols can allow trusted international researchers to access the data based on agreed credentials. In addition, benefit sharing mechanisms can require pharmaceutical companies to commit to global health obligations, such as contributing vaccine supplies during pandemics. Because the data remains under national jurisdiction, countries retain legal protection against misuse. Closing statement. In conclusion, the case for local storage of pathogen genomic data rests on four main pillars. First, legal justification. International law recognizes national sovereignty over genetic resources. Second, ethical responsibility. Local governance helps prevent biopiracy and promotes fair benefit sharing. Third, technical feasibility. Modern technologies such as secure databases, encryption, and decentralized systems make local storage practical and secure. Fourth, practical impact. Data sovereignty strengthens trust and encourages meaningful participation in global pandemic response. For these reasons, storing genetic sequencing data locally while enabling equitable international collaboration represents a balanced and responsible path forward for global health governance. Q&A. Thank you for your attention. Questions and discussion are welcome.